Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. I'm Ali and I'm Frugal Granny, and today's a little bit of a bonus video that I wanted to make quickly to answer a viewer comment about pasta bakes. I think when I posted in Magazine Monday the other week that I'd made a pasta bake, somebody commented they really couldn't see the point of pasta bakes. I did say in response to that comment that I would answer it in a video because I really didn't want to write an essay in the comments. So this in effect is my answer to the question, what is the point of pasta bakes? Anyway, if you're new here, you're very welcome. It really is lovely to see you. I normally post on Wednesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays. Monday is food related. Thursdays is more finance related, and Saturday is just random things that come up in the course of life. Sometimes I post a bonus video on Wednesdays, and I think going forward I want to try and do that every other week, but obviously it's going to depend very much on if there is something to talk about. If you're a returning viewer, it's lovely to see you, and I hope you enjoy this video. First of all, let me just say that I am not an expert on cooking pasta at all. I became very interested in Italian cooking because I was dating an Italian for a while after my divorce, and we had a mutual interest in food, and I learned an awful lot about Italian cooking and the way Italians eat. This was while I was living in London, and as a result I became quite interested in the Italian cooking scene. I remember going to an event where RODDY, the Guardian columnist who lives in Rome and writes about Italian cooking, where she was speaking. I think it was at Divertimenti and Kitchen store in London. I went there and I listened to her talk, and I got a taxi ride home with a lovely lady who lives in Rome, and we became quite good friends for a while. And through that whole scene I also became really good friends with Carla Tomasi, the Italian chef who used to work in Neal Street in London and who retired to Italy. And I met her through Instagram, and we used to talk quite regularly, and I do miss her a lot. She died the summer before last, and that was a big loss to the Italian cooking community online. She was a great friend to very many people and an incredible inspiration. So all I'm trying to say here is that I'm not an expert. I'm just an enthusiast who has dabbled their feet around the edges of Italian cooking, and particularly with preparing pasta. I have made my own pasta in the past. I don't really bother with that now because it's just me, or it has been just me and my son for the last 9 years. So anyway, what is the point of pasta bakes? Well, I think in order to understand the point of pasta bakes, we need to understand how pasta recipes are categorized generally. And there are various ways of categorizing pasta recipes. You can either do it by the cooking style, by the pasta shape, or by the type of sauce. Now in this situation I'm going to talk about by the cooking style, and there are three main cooking styles for cooking pasta. There is the pasta where you prepare the pasta and then you toss it in the sauce and you put it on a plate. And I'm not even going to pronounce the Italian for that. I'm afraid my Italian is incredibly rusty now. And then there is pasta that's prepared in an oven, pasta al forno or pasta bakes. And then we have pasta al brodo, which is pasta that is prepared in a broth or as a soup. Now, pasta on a plate is the most common sort of pasta, and for people in the UK, the most familiar recipe in that category would be spaghetti bolognese, which is minced beef and tomato sauce. So the pasta is boiled separately, usually al dente, so it's just slightly undercooked. It's put in a plate and the sauce is added to it and it's tossed through, or you put the pasta on a plate and you put the sauce on top with a sprinkling of grated cheese of your choice. These recipes would include, as I said, spaghetti bolognese, spaghetti carbonara, and penne all'arrabbiata, things like that, things that we're all quite familiar with. And I think these days we could probably include spaghetti or any pasta shape that's tossed with pesto, and any shop prepared sauce that you add to cooked pasta. I would include in this also seafood pasta, and that's one that I cook quite a lot. Seafood pasta is a really popular one in my house. I follow the Rick Stein recipe from his seafood cookbook, and I'm going to put some of the pictures of those pasta dishes here. I haven't got a picture of the spaghetti bolognese, but here's a picture of the spaghetti carbonara. I like to make pasta with broccoli and ham. I also like to make a sauce with asparagus, bacon and grated pecorino. And I've also been known to make sauces with chicken or with salmon and egg. So that's a sort of chicken or a salmon carbonara type thing. So those are the ones that I've mainly done. The pictures that you're seeing are ones that I've taken from my Instagram account. Some of them are current photographs, some of them have come from my archive. The thing with pasta that's served in a plate is it really does have to be eaten instantly. So it's not something that you can prepare in advance. It really is best, I think, prepared what I would call in community, when everyone's in the kitchen, they're mulling around, they're sitting at the table, everybody's chatting and laughing. Maybe you've got a bit of antipasti on the table and you're cooking the pasta, it's ready, you put in the sauce, you put it straight on the table or straight into people's plates and they eat it, and that's when it is at its best. Spaghetti that's served on plates is not brilliant when it's reheated, and some of it I think you cannot really reheat at all, like seafood spaghetti. I would never ever reheat that. I think it's a health hazard. You need to prepare just enough and make sure that it's eaten. It is at its pinnacle when it is fresh. On the other hand, pasta al forno has more robust sauces. The pasta can be cooked so that it's a lot softer. The sauce and the pasta is layered up, rather like lasagna. I mean, macaroni cheese, I think, would also fall into this category. My first pasta bake that I ever encountered was called Quick Italian Beef. That was from the cookbook that I showed you the other Saturday that my brother gave me when I was first married. It's almost like a pasta bolognese that's baked and it's got cheese on top. It's exactly the same. I also used to do a tuna pasta bake with an egg custard and mushrooms and peas. Other pasta bakes that I make include a thick tomato sauce in which I put chicken and chorizo. Again, that's not what I would call genuine Italian, but it's very tasty. And the good thing about pasta bakes is you do not have to have everybody in the kitchen waiting to eat your pasta dish. The pasta bake can be prepared ahead of time and put in a slow oven and left until people come home, until people are ready. So if you are entertaining a really big party and you haven't got a pan that's big enough to do a plated pasta, you can do several oven dishes full of pasta bake and maybe do several varieties. I've got a picture here of a party I did for 15 work colleagues from the office, and we had, I think, 4 different pasta bakes. One of them was the Quick Italian Beef. I think one was the chicken with chorizo. One was a Quick Italian Beef but lentil version, and I think the other one was salmon and salmon, mushrooms and broccoli. But they all went down incredibly well. They stand very well on a buffet table, and again they can be reheated the next day, though you need to make sure you do reheat them thoroughly. They don't go what we would call up north in England clarty, whereas a plated pasta, when it goes cold, can go quite clarty, which is sort of lumpy and congealed, and if you reheat it, it just sort of loses its oomph. Whereas pasta al forno, you can reheat that in a microwave, the leftovers, and it's still an incredibly edible dish. The final pasta type is pasta al brodo, and to be honest with you, I don't do that at all, really, except when I make minestrone soup, and I think you could probably categorize that as al brodo, because it is pasta in a vegetable stock, a thick one at that, and risotto as well, I think probably could fall into that category, though in that sense the stock is absorbed into the pasta, so you get more of a pasta type risotto dish. In answer to the question, what's the point of pasta bakes? The point of pasta bakes is that it is an easy sort of pasta if you've got people you are waiting for, if you need to bake in volume, if you want a nice, soft, hearty, warming, cheap dish, if you want something that can possibly be reheated the next day as leftovers. Whereas pasta on a plate is completely the opposite of all those things. Now, what I would say is that as a single person, or as a person who's cooking for maybe just one other person, I do tend to cheat with my pasta bakes. I don't put them in the oven for an hour or so, and that's basically because I don't want to put my oven on for an hour or so. So what I do now is I will cook the pasta really well, so it's beyond al dente. I will boil it really well and then drain it. I will make the sauce and I will simmer that on the stovetop, and then I combine the two in the oven-proof dish so that they're nice and steaming hot. I put the cheese on top and then I grill it, or broil it as they would say in the United States. And then I have almost what you could call an instant pasta bake without the expense of having put the oven on for an hour or so. And but the good thing about that is it can be kept warm in a low oven. It can be left to go cold, properly cold, and then reheated as leftovers, served up into a plate, put in the microwave and reheated. So that again has the same versatility as a pasta bake, but I would call it a cheats pasta bake, and that's the way that I do that these days, rather than baking a pasta bake in the oven for an hour or so. So that would be the way I make my quick Italian beef, my macaroni cheese, and my chicken and chorizo pasta bake. And I put them together, put the topping on, and then grill them. And then if I need to warm them up again later, I will plate them up and microwave the individual plates. So anyway, that's basically my quick guide to the 3 cooking types of pasta. I'm not going to go into pasta dishes categorized by shape or pasta dishes categorized by sauce type. If you type into Google, how can pasta recipes be categorized, the AI function will give you a really great answer. If you're more into books, I would just like to recommend Rachel Roddy's book on pasta. She's done an excellent book about pasta. I think she's done this by shape. She really does cook the culture. So if you want a genuine pasta recipe book, I would recommend hers. That I've met Rachel once. She's absolutely delightful and she's an excellent cook. I don't have her book, but I can recommend it because I did have her book 5 Quarters, which again is an amazing book, but when I left London I downsized my books radically, and I think that was one of the books that went, not because I don't value it, but just because I really did have to reduce my books. Another one that I would recommend is Annabelle Conte's pasta book, and her one, Italian Kitchen, is also a great book. So I'm going to put those there. There's first of all her book on pasta, and I'm not sure I've got a picture of the Italian Kitchen book, but you can find that again on Amazon. Anna really introduced Italian cooking proper to the UK back in the day and educated us all beyond pasta that came out of a tin. And I know Rachel Roddy regards her very highly as well. And so I would recommend those books. So, you know, don't think of me as a pasta expert. I'm not. Everything I have learned is incredibly secondhand and has come from people like Rachel and from Anna. So I hope that answers the question, what's the point of a pasta bake? It is, as I said, very different from pasta that's served on a plate. It has a very different purpose and it's served in a very different context. So anyway, that's a very quick little jump in from me. I just wanted to do that so I could wrap up a few loose ends before we move into the holiday season. So I want to do a Magazine Monday on pumpkin in the run up to Thanksgiving, and then we will move into Christmas proper. Anyway, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow for coffee and catch up, and we're going to talk a little bit about how I intend to fund my stock up for 2026, which I will do in the middle of December. Anyway, so enjoy the rest of your day and thank you for watching.